Good evening and welcome to the Design Review Board meeting of July 27th, 2023. The DRB meeting is now called to order. Please refrain from talking among yourselves during the meeting and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones at this time. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting the questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person. Current DRB agendas and staff reports are available by visiting our website at www.glendaleca.gov. Records of decisions for all projects will be posted online on the Planning Division's website. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB appeal is available from staff. Please note that any appeal of a case heard today must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. Meetings are also archived on the city website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. Roll call. Board Member Lockriff?
Present.
Board Member Kaskanian?
Present.
Board Member Welch?
Present.
Board Member Simoni is absent, and Chairperson Chagayan.
Present.
Reports regarding posting of agenda. The agenda for the July 27, 2023 regular meeting of the Glendale Design Review Board was posted on the city's website on July 20th, 2023, and on the bulletin board outside City Hall on July 21st, 2023. Do we have approval of minutes for the Design Review Board minutes of July 13th, 2023?
I would approve with the corrections that were sent to staff. I don't know if you want to highlight, there were 2 corrections noted. One was that we did not take a vote, and the other correction, I don't know if Nina wants to mention, there's...
Oh, just that the notes of the central hearing were not attached to, it said to see attached.
Okay, so that was a motion with those 2 reminders about that there was no vote taken, and then the notes from the Central Avenue project be addressed.
Correct.
Okay.
Second.
Do I have a second by Board Member Welch? So it'll be roll call. Board Member Lockriff?
Yes.
Board Member Welch?
Yes.
Board Member Kaskanian?
Yes.
Chairperson Chagayan?
Yes.
And Board Member Simoni is absent. Motion carries for the approval of the minutes. Oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Design Review Board may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. I don't have anything for oral communications at this time. Any board commission member comments? No? All right. Well, that takes us to, there's no old business, so we will start with new business, and that'll be me. Excuse me. And the first project is for a project at 1750 Golf Club Drive, and it's case number DRB 0000887-2023, and the project involves, well, we're going to go over the presentation, so I don't want to be redundant. So let's start this. So this is the existing house. I will go into a little bit in the presentation, but I kind of wanted to give the board a quick view of the existing house that's currently developed on the property. The property involves the construction of a new 2-story, 3,532 square foot single-family house with an attached 697 square foot 3-car garage on the site, which is 20,800 square feet. It's 2 lots combined. It's located in the R1R restricted residential zone, Florida Ratio District 2 in the hillsides up in the Chevy Chase Canyon area, fronting Golf Club Drive with approximately 170 feet of frontage. The slope is 61.46%. It slopes down from Golf Club Drive. The building pad is approximately 30 feet below street level with an irregular shaped lot, and the existing house at 1,216 was built in 1948. And as part of the proposal, they are proposing to convert the house in the future to a 1,000 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit. And the proposal of the new house will be towards the front of the lot. Still below Golf Club Drive will be the new 2-story house, presenting 2,093 square feet on a floor area on the lower level and 1,424 square feet on the upper level. They're also proposing within the building footprint of the new house at the front, a 500 square foot junior accessory dwelling unit. And that is something that is more clear on the floor plans. You could see where those 2 areas will take place. Project is exempt from CEQA reviews at Class 3 under new construction, and the home that's there now is not eligible for designation as a historic resource. In terms of the existing context, again, we have the subject site, which is there's 2 lots combined. There's an existing, the single-family house towards the back, which is the building here, and which is proposed to remain, and eventually, and in the future, again, converted to an ADU. The existing garage slash carport slash storage area will be demolished. And that's kind of more or less part of the new footprint for the new house. The adjacent homes, one to the east and west, are 1-story, and they're pretty distant from where the new house will be located. Still at a distance. If you're probably standing right about here somewhere, you could probably see, most likely, you'll have a view from a distance of the existing house that's there. And then this existing house sits up higher, or I should say, sits down lower compared to the one to the east, which sits up higher. And then I have some cross sections included where you can actually see that better. So this is the proposed site plan where they're proposing the existing house. Again, the existing long kind of meandering driveway will remain in its current form, which will lead to the motor court towards the bottom of this, or more of the flat padded area of the site where the new home will be built, and part of the home will also be built into the hillside that's below the driveway. New swimming pool. There are some oaks on the site. Those protected trees will remain and shouldn't be compromised as a result of the new construction. But in any case, especially those that on or around where some of the construction activity would take place, where the new pool is proposed, or any, again, construction activity on or around where the existing house, which in the future is proposed to be converted to an ADU. So those trees, they will have to continue working, since they are protected, to work with our city arborist to make sure that any mitigation measures that are required are properly adhered to. And just a site section, just to kind of go over what I went over before, where the existing house to the east sits up at a higher elevation compared to the subject, and again, its relationship to the neighbor to the west, where it sits at a lower grade level. And some more sections. And this is what they are proposing their new home to look like, with the attached garage and the 2-story home built towards the front. Floor plans, more sections, elevations, and why don't I just kind of jump straight to some of the recommended suggested conditions. Staff is recommending approval of the project with conditions or areas of focus that we would like the board to kind of take into account as you go through, or as we go through the process moving forward. One of them is to introduce additional windows on the side facades and increase the amount of cladding employed at the rear and side facades to to reduce the overall amount of stucco. So a little more articulation, again, through the use of windows and additional cladding material, potentially maybe by wrapping some of the cladding material that's proposed at the front, bringing that, maybe extending it towards the side. I mean, that's just an idea for the board to consider. And also to perhaps introduce the brown accent color for the fascia to match the brown accent color that they're proposing for windows and doors. Provide specifications and cut sheets for the exterior lighting, and making sure that and any site lighting as well, and that their locations are to be limited to entry doors and balconies, and also to specify their locations on the building for staff review and approval. Properly locate the mechanical equipment for staff review and approval and depict it on the plan. Submit details of all junctions where the different materials come together, intersect, and that the applicant shall apply for and obtain approval of a lot line adjustment for purposes of creating one lot. They are proposing to cross over the property line, so this would be the proper vehicle, and to do that prior to issuance of a building permit. And this is the proposed view of the rear facade. We looked at the front, this is where the kind of the main entrance to the junior ADU, future junior ADU would be, which resembles the front entry door to the building itself. And then the side views, as we discussed, and we have the material board palette where they're introducing, again, some cladding being like the stacked stone veneer combined with plaster, and more of a kind of a contemporary look, which is appropriate. The color itself also, again, appropriately blends in with the hillside. It's just bringing a little more around the building is something to consider. And we kind of already went through the conditions, so I will conclude my presentation here. If you have any questions, I'm available. I did not receive any correspondence, so just wanted to let the board know I did not receive anything.
Great, thank you, Ms. Toledo. Do we have any questions for staff? Yes?
I have a simple question. You mentioned briefly that an arborist, the city arborist, will be involved, or can you clarify?
Yes, they should be involved, because since there are protected trees, there's I believe it's a 24-inch oak on or around kind of where the new pool is located. I don't know how much those existing roots extend. But considering that it's a mature tree, and I believe there's a couple other oak trees on or around behind the existing house. Mm-hmm. I don't have any of those comments from the arborist, but it's just for the applicant to be aware of moving forward, if they do, that they would need to contact our city arborist and obtain their review and any mitigation measures as they deem appropriate for the project.
Okay. And the tall pine trees that are being removed from the front are not protected?
Correct. So I did point that out in my presentation.
Yeah.
When I did the site visits, one of the things that stood out to me were the large mature pines. That'd be a question, I guess, also for the applicant to see how, but they're not protected. Just the short answer is
one of them, the really big one, is remaining, correct? Am I understanding?
That's the way it appeared in the renderings and
Correct.
in the site plan, but
Okay.
I'd love also like to know for sure if that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes, Mr. Walsh.
So, has the property always been 2 lots, or is the other lot a recent addition to it, or can you explain?
Well, that would be a good question for the applicant, only because I had the same question, and the response I received was that that's the way they acquired the property. I don't know when that took place, but as I was doing research, I did not see any documentation, like, for example, a lot line adjustment or some sort of lot tie, if you will. I did not see one, so I made the applicant aware of that as well.
Is it fair
That-
to say that the division of the 2 lots is in the vertical plane?
Right,
According to that picture there?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so now, my understanding is the way it is now, there is no building that actually crosses over the existing property line, but with their new proposal, it will cross over the property line, so it would, with a structure, tie it together. However, to formally have that documented, the correct vehicle would be, in this case, for example, a lot line adjustment to tie it as
If
one.
they can join the 2 lots into a single lot, the ultimate proposal here, I guess, is for 3 units on the property. The main house, a junior ADU, and a separate ADU. Is that technically, I'm not familiar with the full ADU laws.
Yes, it would be a single-family house.
It is-
And then, based on the state law associated with accessory dwelling units, in this case, they're proposing to convert their existing, a portion, because the house is more than 1,000, so the limit would be, in this case, they can do the 1,000 square foot ADU as long as all the other standards in terms of zoning is being complied with. So we'll look if in the future they do come back and move forward with that conversion, then in that case, that would be really the only way they could keep that building, because in this zone, you can't have a duplex per se, but you can have, for example, an accessory dwelling unit. So in this case, they're opting to convert that existing building in the future to an accessory dwelling unit. And yes, and they are also proposing the junior ADU within an existing building, once that existing building is there.
So,
That's why
but-
it'll be in the future.
Okay, but let me just play this out for a little bit so I make sure I understand. So when this property is built, assuming we give the go-ahead and they build this house, that means, do they lose the certificate of occupancy for the existing house? Or somebody can just continue to live there and basically it's a default duplex?
I don't have the answer to that. That would be something that we would have to kind of discuss with our building staff and or our building official, and see how they would want to approach it. Because technically, you wouldn't be able to have 2 single-family homes. And in order to have an accessory dwelling unit, it has to be accessory to the primary building.
And 1,000 square feet or less?
Correct. So that's why we're kind of presenting it all together, because they could, for plan check purposes, do it all simultaneously. But in terms of the occupancy, that would be something we would have to discuss with our,
Yeah, because
Our
otherwise
staff.
I'd see it, they could just do nothing to the existing
Correct,
house. And,
correct.
by default,
exactly.
and
So we'll
they're
have to see
duplex.
what kind of documentation, what kind of benchmarks. I mean, that's something that we would have to, moving forward, continue that dialogue with our building and safety, and internally see how we would kind of, again, how to best address that.
But it
So
would be
that
on
does not
it would be
happen.
on your radar as
Of
this?
course,
Okay.
yes, yes. We do have benchmarks and ways to kind of address that as the process is moving forward through plan check.
Okay.
But that's a good
Thank you.
question, yes.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? No? I just had one, and I think I know the answer already, but the entry to the main house is from the rear?
Yes, so let me go back to this view. So down here
Okay.
would be primary/secondary access. I don't know what.
And then the
Because,
steps on the other side as well, so I guess one is, okay, going to the yard, but the other is the main
Right.
entry. Okay. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, if there are no further questions for staff, I think we can open up for, to the public and invite the applicant up. Sipan Nazarian. Welcome. Please state your name.
Good evening, board members. My name is Sipan Nazarian. Thank you for the presentation, Milka. I just want to point out, we worked on this project for 2 years, a little over 2 years. And in December, this design was ready to submit, and we did submit. And at the 11th hour and 59th minute, Milka took over the project.
For
She
someone
had-
else.
For someone else, and she had to go through 2 years of back and forth we were working with Cassandra and Jay. They helped a lot. I mean, we spent a lot of time we've had the property for almost 3 years, and we were working on it for 2.5. So thank you, Milka, to get us this date today, because she literally started from scratch, and we started from scratch too. We were very disappointed because we were literally at this point. So just wanted to say thank you to her. In terms of a couple of the things the board had mentioned, in terms of the lot, we were under the impression, and we still, I'm getting a more detailed title report done. But as far as we know, it's one lot, and we're trying to find an old covenant. Because on the county assessor, it's one lot, on the title report, it's one lot, and on the description of the property, on the Exhibit A, it's lots, it's one lot. It's 2 lots, but it's under one APN. There is no separate APN, and from my experience, if there are 2 lots, there's usually a secondary APN. There is no secondary APN. So, but if we did have to, for the sake of making it official, if we can't find that document, it would just be a lot, it would be a covenant for a lot tie, which is just get it recorded at the county, but it's definitely one property. As far as the existing house, the idea is to, during plan check, go through that process. We don't want to go through the whole process again. So as we submit the plan check for this, the idea is to convert that also to an ADU. And we do want it to match the style of the old house, because you guys saw the pictures. We're not going to keep that. It's going to, match the new house. So the idea is it's almost like a complete renovation, which it will be, to match the new house. I saw the comments. I appreciate everything Milka said. I'm in agreement with everything. There was just one thing, because I'm a detail nut. Condition number 2, I would hope that we don't have to meet that condition, Milka. And the reason I wanted to say it is, the fascia itself, it's the same material under the eave as it is on the face of the eave, and it's wrapped with stucco. So it's not like a wood fascia that we can do a different color. So the joint between the bottom of the eave and the top of the eave, if you do a different color, the only way to differentiate that is with color and painting it. We don't want to paint. It gives it a cheap look, and it's not, there's no thickness to it, is what I'm trying to say. If it was like a wood, piece of wood that we could differentiate, or if we had the rafters exposed underneath too, I would agree with that, but I would hope we don't have to meet that condition. And what it does is that the light color stucco creates a nice contrast between the gutter. So the idea here is to keep the materials minimal, so that light stucco, and then you have the bronze of the gutter and the downspouts and the windows, and then we have the Dorado stone. I like to try to keep like maximum 3 materials. So that was just something small, but I'd really like if we could not have to paint that brown. Other than that, and the pine tree. We're trying to keep that one big pine tree. When we were doing the story poles, I had our soil engineer come out. He looked at it and he said, when you're building that retaining wall, no matter what you do, any kind of excavation there, it's a massive tree. And then these last rains, it exposed a lot of the roots of a couple of those pine trees. So he said, if we have another rain like that, whether you had a house there or not, that might be something you'd want to take down because then it's going over the power poles. So we're gonna try to, but I'm just being completely honest with you. Most likely that big tree has to come down. I would like to keep it. It creates a lot of shade, but other than that, we do have a lot of trees in the area. It's nice. I mean, you can't really see the house from the street, but you also can't see it from across the hill. I've driven there trying to look at the house. The only thing you see is the existing little house that's gonna be an ADU. And we really don't have views either. That's why we try to incorporate a lot of balconies to have that upper level. You can't see out of, it's a forest. You can't see out or into the site. But yeah, I'm being completely candid. We're gonna try to keep that big tree, but there's a good chance we'd have to cut that one down as well. That's it.
Thank
you.
you. Mr. Nazarian, do we have any questions?
Yes.
Sorry if you could come back.
So can you explain the first floor there, that ground floor? You've got like a 14-foot-high ceiling in garages, and then you've elevated the first floor up like 6 steps or something like that.
Yeah.
Why?
The first floor is, I mean, the ground level is the primary entrance, I wanna say. I know it's designed to, and it shows the junior ADU technically because it's the front of the house, but the bottom area would be the primary entrance. We've raised it so that a couple of practical reasons. The crawl spaces, I know code requires 18-inch crawl space. I'm a general contractor myself. The 18-inch crawl space does not work. We wanted to have a little bit of a crawl space. That's where we're gonna be putting the furnace as well. And then also, we wanted the house to be a little bit elevated, more than normal, because there's a lot of critters there too. And also, it sits into the site, into the hillside better, where we have that separation. The floor joists end up sitting on top of that retaining wall, which is above the grade level of all the dirt and stuff that's gonna come from the back. And we pretty much situated that in an area where the second floor sits a little bit above that natural grade, and then those steps go up. The garage, yes, is gonna be tall, but as far as the rest of the house goes, it's the crawl space, and then it's a 10-foot ceiling. So it's maybe 2 feet higher than it would be if it was on a flat pad, but just for a couple of those reasons, we do have a lot of critters there too, so we wanted to be elevated above the ground. And it kind of makes the house a little bit more visible from the street too, because anything lower than that, I mean, you really can't see it. In one of my sections that I showed, I imposed the street line on the street, and we're only about 2 feet above. All you see is the roof line. So the rendering that we also did, you have to walk to the edge of the property and look down to notice it. It's really hidden.
Did you explore any other alternatives in terms of an entryway? Because I think it was pointed out, the entranceway that is visible mostly from the street is for the ADU, not the house.
But I understand that, but in terms of like, if you didn't know it was a junior ADU, it doesn't change anything because you still have to park on the lower level to enter. So whether it's a junior ADU or we take that wall out and make the second floor bigger and call it the entrance of the main house, it visually and in terms of all practicality, it stays the same. Because anybody accessing is gonna access from the lower level. We just don't have the ability to create any other pad on that upper level. It's a pretty steep slope. We're 32 feet, I wanna say, below grade. So I know it's called a junior ADU, but literally if you took out the wall dividing the junior ADU and the main house, and we called it the entrance to the main house, it would not change anything in terms of design.
Is that something you're contemplating or could be contemplated?
It could be, yeah. But we're gonna be living in it, so we kind of designed it for ourselves, the junior ADU too.
So you were
It's
one
ours,
of the
yeah, yeah.
property owners?
Oh, it's my dad's retirement home. It's gonna be the
all right.
Nazarian estate. We've been
Does he live
working
there?
really hard for this one. Yeah, it's his retirement home, so it's,
They're on the property now?
no, we have it, we have a renter there right now, but we will be living there
Okay.
if the board approves.
Sorry, so you mentioned that the only way to access the house is to come down that driveway. Is that accurate? So,
You could park at the top on the
okay,
street level.
so for
We do
the
have-
junior
yeah,
ADU,
there's
they
street level
have to be
parking,
on
but
from the street, right?
They would have, I mean, it's us would be parking down there most
Right.
of the time.
So, but if somebody that lives at the junior ADU parks down here, the only way to get access is to go back up the driveway?
If they park down, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any other questions for the applicant? Yes, please, go ahead.
Just following up on Chairperson Welsh's comment regarding the garage height, do you need the garage to be that high, just for function? I know that
It's just to meet the second floor plate. The second floor
Right.
plate would be equal, so because the house is elevated and it has the crawl space and the garage will be a slab on grade, by default, it just becomes taller.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you explored like a split level, like the primary bedroom kind of coming down a little bit.
It
I'm
would
just throwing that out
the
there.
way the way that it falls, it could be, but again, in terms of changing the ceiling height, I don't think it's gonna. Let me look at the drawing there. We have the staircase.
Unless you needed a high garage, I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
we would
if
like
the-
it just to keep everything on the same level, because you come up the stairs, and then if you drop down into the bedroom, you would have to extend the stairs another 8 stairs to come into the bedroom. So we would almost the same length stair that we have right now. Half of that would have to eat into the master bedroom.
It's a loss of space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Besides the loss of space, I just think functionality-wise too.
Okay.
And in terms of the massing, I think overall what we did originally, we had the balconies a little bit more set out, the house a little more set out too, was only about a foot. We pushed the house to 2 feet and the balconies to 4 feet to create a lot more change in planes.
Okay.
A lot more cost, but it looks a lot better too. I agree with the design comments we had.
And regarding staff's comments about the windows, did you have an idea on how you would address that?
Yeah, we could, definitely we can add windows on the east facade.
Okay.
We're all for that. And I think I was like, talking about it with my dad, we figured out a way to incorporate the Dorado stone where it's one volume. I didn't want to just slap it onto surfaces, so I do want it to wrap and end at another surface. So the idea would be anytime there's a volume sticking out or in, that entire volume could be the stone. And that way there's some sort of justification, and because I don't like to see the corner of the stone just exposed. Looks nicer when it just makes it look like it's a mass within a mass. And that's the reason on the front entry, the doorway itself, the wall of the doorway is stucco because you have these two masses coming out from the side, and that doorway almost becomes a void, which is in line with the walls to the right of it and the other balcony. So it's almost like it's sliced through. But I didn't want to just slap a material on it. So that's something we can definitely incorporate.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And I guess on that note of that front entry, the stone is currently, the intent is to wrap it in, and it's just that back wall that is stucco?
Yes, and you can see it better on the rendering. If you look at the rendering, it's shown that way. Let's see it there.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It
see
wraps
it.
the sides, yeah.
Okay. Okay, any additional questions for Mr. Nazarian? No? Thank you very much. Would the owner also like to speak?
Hello, everybody. My name is Rafi Nazarian. I'm actually the architect and the owner of this project and property. I'm working with the city for nearly 35 years. And I've gone through this board and projects for my clients, for my maybe more than 25 projects like that. Now it's the maybe last projects for my own project, for myself, because I'm 65 now and I'm planning to retire if I can. And building that kind of house, I was looking for this kind of property for maybe 5 years, on that area, land or something I could build. Finally, I was able to buy this somehow because it was affordable for me. And the first thing I saw, the land is kind of flattened down and the street is up. Came to my mind that nobody will walk, or either ourselves or our guests, walk to the house. The main primary entrance for the house is going to be down below because you have to drive anyway. I'm going to put a fence because there are many animals, even wild animals over there. So you have to have a gate. So entering to this house, which I built many in Beverly Hills area, is just gate, and you drive into the like parking lot or garage, and you enter to the house. So this the second floor entrance is kind of decorative, in my opinion, because at least you see something from the street, you see an entrance. So it's not like main entrance for the house. The junior ADU, it could be gone if the family, I mean, it's kind of internal issue. It's not like kind of very important permanent fact that it has to be there. Entrance, we can change the entrance from the side, we can do anything, but for now, I think we had that entrance already. That was an opportunity to use that for junior ADU. Why not? But main entrance is, I'm telling again, it's the back entrance in the bottom, because all the driving is going to be toward down to the garage, the parking lot in the below, and then entrance to the house. Besides that, if main entrance, if you consider from the second floor, you just get into the den and then bedrooms. Then you have to go down tiny steps down to the staircase to get into the main house. So it doesn't make any sense anyway. That's up on you to decide what you want to believe or not, what you want to decide. Besides that, the garage height, we did not want it that, but it just came out that way because the retaining wall, which is facing the street, is barely covering the first floor. So we can't go down. We have to dig it out, digging to push the dirt back and then go down. But why do that while the next door house is like above us and the other ones are above us, and we need a little bit height to get some view to the golf club, which is still some trees are covering that anyway. But to gain that, if garage height, internal height is technically an issue, we can put another ceiling inside and create like kind of attic space or whatever. But which is not visible, and 14 feet is the maximum, actually maximum height you can create for any type of first floor house or accessible dwelling or garage. So if it exceeds 14, there's another question, but it doesn't. So it's the limit. It's not bad to have that height. I mean, doesn't bother. Doesn't help, but doesn't bother too. We can also bring the garage floor a little higher and give a little slope, which is not bad because it's gonna prevent any water coming into the garage or store, and we can reduce that to 12, whatever. But I don't see any problem with either way. This way, if we leave it like that, or just one of the options, just raise the floor. So besides that, this is my fourth design for this house. Fourth design.
24 seconds.
So first one was totally different, a little bit somewhat modern, but construction-wise, much less expensive than this one. Then we went through with Sandra and Jay, break the roof, break the walls, go inside and change, put more materials. I did another one. They said, yes, it's good, but not that good. So go back and then redo that. I created balconies, covered patios, railings, bring some more metal material into that, and windows above the garage or all these things. So finally, Sipan had to get involved, said, you know what, just leave this one for me. This was the fourth final design we did. So,
Sorry, your time is up, so when
okay.
when you hear the bell,
Anyway,
if you could wrap up your thoughts. But
yes,
thank
I
you.
want to thank Milka especially for helping us with this project. And the timing is very important for us because I'm getting old, my grandchildren are growing, so I need to start the construction as soon as possible. And I know you understand that, and I appreciate your help on that one. And I say thank you for considering that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, there are no other speaker cards. Do we have any phone calls?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Great. So if there are no calls, we would close the public forum and open up for deliberations. Mr. Welsh, you want to kick us off?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the applicant and the owner for coming up and sharing some of the background here. Personally, I would have loved to have seen some of those earlier designs. This is a unique property, and it's one of those things that when we see projects, most of the time they have all of these strictures on them. Okay, it has to match the neighborhood. It has to, conform to massing. It has to, be respectful of neighborhood designs and things like that. This is a property that you don't have any of those things really, because there's a wide variety of designs in the neighborhood. There's a larger homes in the neighborhood, so you really don't have to deal too much with trying to bend your design to fit into the neighborhood, as we often have to do. And so from that perspective, I would have loved to have seen something really unique, because you could have done that here and really gotten away with it. And I would have loved to have seen some designs that you could have done that would have really taken advantage of the flexibility that this site would afford you. Because this looks, very, similar to the typical home in, Chevy Chase Canyon, and that's not a bad thing. And I'm not saying this is a bad design. I'm just saying that there was an opportunity here to do something so much more creative and expressive that I would have loved to have seen. So regardless of that, that's just my cantankerous nature here, giving voice. The concerns that I have really do relate to the things we've talked about. The entranceway being for the junior ADU, it speaks like it's the entranceway to the house, but it's not the entranceway to the house. So there's a confusion there. And the design guidelines do actually specify that we should be looking to make sure that the entrance to the house is clearly visible and approachable from the street. We don't have that here. So I think that that's, it's something for us to have a discussion about how we might address that, if at all. The other point that we talked about the garage height and stuff like that, it's the issue. I don't think is not so much the height of the garage. It's that the differential between the garage plane and the main floor plane creates the need to have all of these steps to reach that floor level, only for the purpose of having a crawl space. When it again makes that lower level entranceway not really look like an entranceway. So that's, again, something we're trying to avoid. And just from a personal perspective, I don't think that it's very, indoor-outdoor friendly for a design. I think that having it closer down to the ground plane where you're going to have a pool and stuff like that, I think would be more amenable, But again, that may be just my preference. I think that you could bring the floor plane of that ground floor down lower, even if you kept the same height, have a 12-foot ceiling and just a 12, a 2-foot or an 18-inch crawl space or something. And, excavate out an area if you need to put for the heat pump or whatnot down there. So I think that bears some discussion. And I think finally the area of the landscaping, well, actually, there is no landscaping. There's no landscaping proposed. It's basically just a large paved area. And even though it may be permeable pavers, it just doesn't look particularly inviting to me. I think it's basically just a big, parking lot where there's a pool. And I think that is not well done in terms of how it could be creating a nice outdoor space that blends into the house, that complements the house. So that would be, how I would think about maybe making some suggestions or considerations for them to try and improve that. Because it's just a lot of paving. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Welsh. Board Member Koskanian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First and foremost, I really like your shirt. Really cool. I do agree with my fellow board member, and I go golfing in that area a lot. Chevy Chase actually just started, so it's definitely something that I'm going to be seeing a lot at the house. So, I would have agreed to see something a little bit more unique in that sense, in that area. I think it would have definitely been something that, like, even the community over there would have appreciated a little bit more. I do agree with in regards to having a little bit more landscaping. Right now, it does look like it's just like a parking lot of some sort. So definitely incorporating a little bit more landscaping. And your point with having that front entrance, it is very confusing, and I don't know how we could differentiate that. So I think that's something that we should look into. But other than that, I like the overall design. in the sense where, it is nice, it will fit in the area, and I'm okay with us removing the second condition as you were stating. So just wanted to point that out, but other than that, yeah, good.
Thank you, Mr. Kaskanian. Board Member Lockeroff.
Well, first, congratulations on building your home. And this is exactly, too, why the ADU laws are created, so that you can all live together. And I'm excited for you. And overall, it's a project I would support. I agree. I would have loved to see you go, as you've been a designer for years, probably create something really individual here. But I think you've done a very nice job in terms of site planning. I really think it's quite smart how you're converting the existing house into another house. I like where the structures, how it nestles into the site. I think it's done very well in terms of how you've done the site planning here. And for that reason, I support it. I think that from the top of the street, you probably won't see the house much at all. And part of that, though, is due to these beautiful big trees. And so I don't know if this is a condition that we could impose, but I would love to see tree replacement happen in the front, some shade trees, which you guys would love and benefit from also. So I think that was one thing I'd like to add. Maybe that could be in conjunction with the other landscaping items that were brought up by my fellow board members. I do agree that it is a lot of paving. It doesn't mean that it can't be drivable. There are permeable surfaces that you could grow things between. There's a lot of options so I think just working with staff on different solutions for the permeable pavers and maybe variety of surfaces and planting areas would be important. I think the front door, the entry. I'm not stuck on it. I think I think from a safety standpoint, it makes me a little nervous. Fire department coming in. I don't know if that's going to be an issue later on, but with fire, and that would be a staff question, I suppose. But we can discuss that. The one other item too is I think that there should be. The vents, when we're talking about materials, I think overall I support the materials that are being proposed here. I agree with staff's condition for adding, a little bit more of the veneer onto the back side of the property. But in terms of the vents, the curved vents, those are going to be pretty visible, and I'm trying to understand how solar panels would work with those as well. And so I think the top of the roof is going to be the most visible thing. So I think something more flat vents would be what I would recommend. And then also just working with staff on how that coordinates with solar, because that's going to be needed. And the fascia doesn't bother me. I think it was well explained that this is stucco, and I do like the detail of the downspout being dark, and for me that's sufficient. So that one condition I personally would be okay with eliminating. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lockeroff. Okay, so I am in agreement with my fellow board members. I think everything that was said I support and agree with. I too would have liked to have seen something as unique as your style that you're even showing us here today. So, but again, it's a simple, nice design, and I don't think it's that's a problem. The entry for me was the weird aspect of the way it's laid out. Again, site planning, I appreciate you're using the existing driveway, you're keeping the existing structure as it is, and you're converting, and you're nestling the new structure. I'm in full agreement of that, but I would have, again, we didn't see the previous iterations. Maybe you had a version where the junior ADU the entry was off to the side and the main entry was right there in the center. I think it offers not only the opportunity for future, whether it's you guys start to rent out one of the ADUs, it becomes an appeal, right? Like you don't want to have to say you can only park on the street and you have to come down these steps, or you have to come down the driveway to even enter the main home. It becomes a little bit of a a downside, right? Like for future use and just functionality, even if it works for your needs right now. I would say maybe still explore that without, changing the overall look and style of the house. You could simply just relay out that junior ADU to have the entrance off to the side. It's not, I don't think, impossible. And I agree about too many steps down below. Like if you can keep that crawl space at that minimum, gain the height on the inside, I think it would be lovely and really appreciated in the long run, right? That you don't have so many steps to come out every time you want to go to the backyard. I understand why your garage is as tall as it is, and I'm not hard pressed in either direction to either raise the slab or add the ceiling, but I can see that, maintaining that linear design is really the goal here, so I don't have an issue with that. I agree with the landscaping for sure. I think it needs a little bit more back there, but overall, I'm in agreement to approve the project with the conditions we stated, and I agree that we don't necessarily need to color that fascia because it is the stucco like you explained. It doesn't bother me as much, so those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, so it seems like there's consensus about removing the condition number 2. So I think that that's fine. We can proceed with that. I think that's, can I state that we would have add a condition perhaps regarding entranceway, and maybe we ask that the condition ask the applicant to restudy how an entranceway is done to make the entryway to the main house more in keeping with the design guidelines, potentially, and we don't have to be prescriptive about it, but having them try to restudy it so that they can come up with a solution that is more in keeping with the design guidelines and accentuating the entranceway to the house as the house. Does that seem appropriate?
Yes, I would agree with
I would
that.
support that. That's
Okay. So then we would add a landscaping condition?
right. Are you in agreement with adding the trees to the front as well? I would like to, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Right.
fine. I think
Okay.
they'll have to work with the
Arborist, correct.
arborist to deal with that. But I think
Okay.
they just need to present a landscaping plan
Okay.
that we can ask
Correct.
them to keep as many of those trees as possible, and if they're removing them, to have replacements, and then to restudy and provide a plan for landscaping at the ground level that is more landscaping as opposed to paving.
Correct. There was one item we didn't discuss, was the windows. I don't think we went into detail. I think one of the conditions was
To
adding
add some
more,
more
and I
windows,
am
yeah.
in full agreement
I
with that
agree. I
condition. I
agree
just
with
wanted to,
Yes, and I think the applicant agreed as well, so
Okay.
I think that's fine.
okay.
So I think that would only leave the issue of the floor plane at the ground level. Do we want to
Right.
make that a condition, a consideration? I mean, it's really up to them.
I
at the
agree.
end, but
I agree. I think we
that
can-
the design would be much improved if it was.
I agree, it would be much nicer, but again, it's one of these unique sites that I don't think it's going to impact the neighborhood as much,
No,
you know?
it's- yeah,
So
it's not,
it's
yeah.
more of like a consideration,
Okay,
yeah.
Yes.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Did you get that, Milka?
I'm going to ask again because this last one about the consideration, can you, which point were you referring to, the garage height or?
It's kind of both, right? The garage and the main house.
It's really more the main house.
The main
floor,
house,
you
like
know, 'cause
bringing
right
it
now
down.
It's raised up like 4+ feet off of the ground.
So-
And we're suggesting a consideration that they reduce that.
Right.
So
So that-
what I had noted, and then I can, it sounds like a consideration, was to try to have more of a level area, the back around the garage, and to avoid the split level or additional steps from the garage to the backyard.
Well, it would be from
From the main house.
The main house to the ground level, which would
So
also
from-
be the garage.
Okay, so from the main house all the way down to the ground. Okay, I thought it was just,
Yeah, all of it together.
so the whole thing.
Right.
So why don't we just then consider lowering the house as much as possible to avoid
I don't think
excessive
you need to lower the
Lower the
house.
whole house.
Yeah.
Because he's right, you know, it's really is basically at street level. So this is one of those opportunities where they could have easy 12-foot ceilings, you know, in there, to have beautiful high ceilings without necessarily running afoul of, you know, the neighborhood complaining about height. So basically the idea is, again, the ground plane of the house, the living space on the ground floor, recommendation, well, not a recommendation, a consideration to lower it down a little bit closer to the ground so it's not as high off the ground as it is in the plans.
Okay, so consider lowering the ground level of the house.
Yes.
We'll just- Okay, we'll leave it at that. Then I also had what we talked about. Let's go back to the conditions. So we struck number 2 out. Number 1, we're keeping about the introduction of additional windows and materials, et cetera.
Yes.
Getting rid of number 2, providing, number 3, we'll keep providing specifications about cut sheets, et cetera. 4, we'll keep about identifying the mechanical equipment on the site. 5, we'll keep about submitting details about junctions where they intersect of materials. And number 6 we'll keep, but again, we heard from the applicant they're going to do some additional research, but we'll just keep that just in case. The consideration, we've heard that about lowering the ground floor. Restudy the main entrance to the main house. To be more in keeping with the guidelines, maybe providing more of an identifiable focal point, main entrance to the house, but does it matter if it has to be facing the street, or could it be off to the side like they're proposing now and make that more clear? Does the board have a preference?
I don't think we need to be prescriptive on
Got it.
that. You
No.
know,
So we'll just keep it at the
he's a
restudy.
talented designer, I'm sure he can come up with some solutions. It's just that the
Understood.
guidelines do say should be identifiable.
Understood.
And so,
We'll have another condition about submitting a landscape plan. Okay. So we'll have the applicant do that, and also contact urban forestry regarding the existing oaks and whatever their requirements are to be complied with. And also on the landscape plan, keep as much of the existing trees as possible, especially those, obviously the protected, and then also at the front.
the mature trees.
I agree, that's kind of what makes this kind of a unique site with all of the lush vegetation out there. And incorporate additional complementary landscaping like on or around the motor court area to, again, soften that area and reduce excessive paving. So we'll incorporate that as well as part of that condition for as part of submitting a landscape plan and adding that additional of those details. Provide replacement?
I think we-
Provide replacement trees to be included
At the front.
at the front.
At the front of the house.
If those
they
trees
come
are
down.
removed.
if they remove, yes.
Okay. Oh, and then about the flat vents, there was a comment to
Yeah.
About the
perhaps,
vents?
And also, and maybe that could be
Restudy?
it could be in conjunction with the equipment note that you have
Okay.
already. Mainly, I have a concern that with these vents, you won't have space for solar anywhere, and so that's, and also aesthetically, it's.
so restudy perhaps the design of the roof vents to be more flat to enable future solar panels
Right,
to be accommodated.
Study the, like you said, equipment locations,
Exactly.
including solar
Yes,
panels.
I'll include that
Correct.
as that one condition that originally is number 4 regarding the mechanical equipment. Anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all.
Hey, okay, here we go. So approval with conditions is what I heard. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve with conditions
Okay.
that were just stated.
Okay, that was a motion by Board Member Lockruff. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Welch. Roll call. Board Member Welch,
Yes.
Board Member Lockruff,
Yes.
Board Member Kaskanian,
Yes.
Chairperson Chagayat.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.
Oh, I have a draft here. Let me move.
What was it?
So Roger will present the next case.
All right. Good evening, members of the board. The last item before you this evening is case number PDR 001101-2023. It's a review of a proposal to construct a new 2,600 square foot, two-story single-family residence with an attached garage. The residence is proposed on the west side of Thompson Avenue and located on an 8,250 square foot lot. The lot is zoned R1, FAR District 2. It is also in the historic overlay district, or not historic overlay, horse overlay district. The existing 942 square foot house is scheduled to be demolished. That house was built in 1938. Also, a 1961 guest house / storage structure will also be demolished. There is a relatively newly built two-story accessory structure containing a garage and ADU, and that is proposed to remain. Let me just quickly go over with you the PowerPoint. A location map. You can see the site in highlighted in red, sort of the western side of Thompson Avenue, just south of Victory. Actually, before I go over the rest of the PowerPoint, you may recall in October of last year, the board reviewed a proposed single-family residence on the same site. The design of that house was returned for redesign with a number of fairly substantial conditions. The currently proposed house is really significantly different. It's a totally new house from what you saw in October of last year. And this currently proposed house really addresses the concerns raised by the board at that time. So many of the slides I have here are before and after, or initial and proposed currently. So let me just go over with you my PowerPoint presentation briefly. Ultimately, excuse me, the currently proposed project, we believe, complies with the design guidelines, and so should be approved. But let's go over before and after. So the site planning, the upper site plan, it was the previous proposal. The proposed house was in red, outlined in red, and the green building is the guest house / storage structure that they initially wanted to keep. The lower site plan is what is being currently proposed and shows the demolition of that structure. I would caution you, I tried to get these as kind of close as possible in scale, but you can't rely on that. So, but it does give you, an idea of changes. Thompson Avenue in both is on the right-hand side. I didn't highlight the two-story garage ADU because nothing has changed, and nothing has changed from previous to new. So the first floor, the left is the older version, the right is the newer version. Basically the same width of the house. It might be a little bit narrower, but it's elongated, which allows for a little bit more play in the floor plates of both the first and second floor. So this is the newly proposed house is on the right. Second floor, the left is the old, the right is the new. The roof plan, the green outline shows the first floor, the red outline shows the second floor, and the left roof plan is the old, the right is the new. So this highlights really the substantial sort of step back that's being proposed now from the first floor to the second floor, which was one of your concerns last time around. The front elevation, the north elevation, the old version is on the left, the new version is on the right. This is the rear elevation. Again, left old, right new. West elevation, one of the side elevations. The upper one is the old, the lower one is the new, and you can, again, they're not at the same scale, but you can tell it's elongated. And then the east elevation, the top is the old, the bottom is the new. Landscape plans. This is a photo of the existing house. And just a Google image of the site. You can see the house toward Thompson, the middle structure proposed for demolition, and then the new structure is sort of in the upper corner of the site. So, as I mentioned earlier, with regard to the presently proposed residence, staff is thinking the site planning is appropriate. The street front setback area is consistent with other homes in the area. Its front facade varies in plane. Landscaping is drought tolerant and complementary in style. And then finally, the front-facing garage is not a required garage for the residents. But if you look in the neighborhood, they've got both rear garages as well as front-facing garages, and so as is presently proposed, it's fine. With regard to mass and scale, the proposed residence is appropriate because it emphasizes both the horizontal and vertical elements to diminish the scale. And I can go back to, I'm going to concentrate on the front elevation. Just both the horizontal and vertical, I think, help break up the mass. The second floor, as I mentioned before, is significantly stepped back from the first floor. It's hard to read on the front elevation, but obviously the side elevations the step back is evident. And then with regard to the design and detailing, staff also believes that the design and detailing is appropriate. The materials that they've chosen, the vertical siding, the metal roof, the clad windows reinforce the farmhouse style that they're proposing. Again, this is the front elevation. Really no privacy concerns to speak of. There are no balconies on the second floor anymore. All the sort of common living areas are on the ground floor, so no privacy concerns. And then just all the detailing really builds off the farmhouse style. So As I previously mentioned, the board had a number of conditions related to the previous project, previous house. I can go over those conditions and how the new design sort of responded to them. But it's all in the staff report, and I mean, these are really two different houses. So, yeah, you know, if you'd like me to go over them, I can. If not, I'm fine to conclude and just recommend that staff is recommending approval of the project.
Yes, I think that's fine. We all
Okay.
remember this project.
Okay.
Okay, are there any questions for staff?
I had
Yes.
some. Thank you, Roger. Just a question. I saw some people writing in about a historic overlay zone in this area, and I'm wondering if you can comment upon that and whether or not this house would be considered a contributing house in terms of that kind of a program?
Okay, it's in a horse overlay zone, not a historic overlay zone.
Oh, but I thought
I
that there was
misspoke.
some mention. There was some
You're
mention.
correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. At this point, there is no historic district in that area. Apparently, there has been talk about it, but there's none on the ground. There's nothing submitted.
There's no survey that has been done.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Staff has looked at this particular house, and you know, while it's a nice house, the existing house is a nice house. It's relatively well preserved. There wasn't anything just out of the ordinary about it that would make it stand out on its own to make it historic. Nor did we find any people or events that were associated with this property or this house that would also potentially make it historic. So I would say it may be a contributor to a district at some point, but you know, there is no district now, and it's one of many.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Nope. Oh, yes. Ms.
This is
Lockhart.
a small, there were, also in the letter, it was, you know, there was concern about horses, and the demolition that's occurring, it's not a horse barn or anything, that was already demolished with the ADU, correct?
To be honest with you, I don't recall what was demolished with the garage ADU. I was
Okay.
involved in that part.
Okay.
The structure sort of in back of the house now
Right.
is a guest house storage structure. I've seen pictures. I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with horses.
Right, and there's nothing it wouldn't impact the neighbors if they didn't have horses, you know, in terms of, it wouldn't impact them in terms of their ability to keep horses, for instance, in terms of code, or, you know, there's no reason. I was reading some concern about it, but I guess I wasn't quite clear on what the impact could
There's
be.
nothing that compels people to keep horses in that neighborhood.
Right, right, right.
Right. If that's what your question is.
No, I guess I'm just trying to understand the comment, but I guess we can get to that later
Okay.
when it comes up. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. If we have no further questions for staff, we can open the public hearing and call out the applicant. Marina, yes, Vanyan, yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I think I just want to say that it's essential to mention that this journey for this project has been a diligent and a collaborative effort with Roger. Obviously, we really appreciate working with him. I came in late to the project, so it was very important to get all the valuable feedback that you had proposed, you had given to the previous design. And to me, it meant a lot, and not just refine, but just to redesign. And our goal was, working with my client, was to preserve the essence of the Thompson Avenue, the tree line, and bring in innovation with this modern type of ranch house. And Mr. Wells, you said something really wise a few minutes ago about the uniqueness of the property, and I do believe that for every single property owner, their little lot is their most unique project that they can build, and that's what we've tried to do here for this family.
Oh, great, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Kazanchian, would you like to speak?
I would.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
I fired my previous architect based on everything that you guys relayed to me last time we met. Hired her. She did a great job. Answered all of you. Hopefully she answered and designed the house the way you guys proposed it. I know Miss Chagakian told me to destroy the middle storage room. I did, because, you know, it made sense. As far as it being a historical home, it's not. It looks like every other home in the neighborhood, but it's run down, and it needs to go. I'm gonna live there. I'm not. I know in one of the emails that Roger got, they were stating that, oh, she said something like, quote, he's gonna flip the house. That's absolutely not true. I've been living in a 598 square foot ADU in the back, waiting for this thing to get approved with my family. If I was flipping the house, I would have another home to live in. But I've been here. I've been with the neighbors. And I just want to finish it and get it done. So,
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the owner? No? Okay, thank you. All right, do we have any callers?
We have no callers.
Okay, then we will go ahead and close the public hearing and begin our deliberations. Mr. Kaskanyan, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I definitely remember the old architect of this house, or the architecture design of this house, I should say, in total 360. I really like the approach that you all are taking, and I really appreciate the farm-style house, the modern farm-style house that you all have brought into the area. It kind of like, you know, blends in a little bit with the area, because there are a lot of horses, and we still have to preserve those areas and whatnot. But bringing in that modern twist to it, I really appreciate it. When I first saw the drawings, I was like, wow, this is definitely it. So I personally really like the house, so I'd be approving this one.
Thank you, Mr. Kaskanyan. Board Member Lockeroff?
I agree. I think it's a lovely design and really a transformation from what we saw last time. It does very nicely relate to the neighboring properties, and with the ranch style is lovely. And I also think it's well sited in how you've set back the second story. I think you have a wonderful house. I'm excited for you, and I would support this project. So,
Thank you. And Board Member Welsh?
I concur. Job well done. I think that everything that everyone has said is spot on. I think that as a result of this kind of a change, and even with the addition of this sort of tandem two-car garage, which, by the way, is excellent idea to do it that way. It reduces the imprint of that garage door on the front, allows you to keep that driveway there to the back, still gives you that space. You know, I know you wanted to have like workshop kind of space, so you now have that there as part of this program. And I think the overall layout of the house is just so much improved. It opens up to the backyard. You have that lovely patio and deck out there. I think it'll be a much, much nicer place to live. So job well done. The only comment or recommendation I would have is that throw a couple of windows on the side of the garage, you know, on that side of the house. I think that would help that side facade. But aside from that, everything else is really well done. So I am wholeheartedly in support. Thank you.
And I'll keep it short and sweet too. I think beautifully done, and I'm very appreciative that you really listened to our feedback from the last time. This is a completely different house, and it's on my first time receiving a case that has no conditions, so, and we're in agreement with, so really, lovely, beautiful design, and, I have nothing more to say, other than we, are in agreement to approve, the current design as proposed. Thank you.
Great. Do you want to add a condition on windows at the garage elevation? Consideration?
Make it a consideration, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move it to approve with the one consideration.
I second the motion.
All right, a motion was made to approve the project with the consideration that windows be added to the, it would be the west elevation in the garage area. This will be a roll call. Mr. Welsh,
Yes.
Ms. Lockroth,
Yes.
Mr. Kaskanian,
Yes.
and Ms. Chagayan.
Yes,
Great. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, good luck.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn unless there's anything else.
I second.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Adjourned, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And